Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship that, instead of bringing joy, only generated suffering? Can you recognize the signs of a toxic relationship in your own life? Remember, you deserve to be happy and loved unconditionally. Toxic relationships are bonds that, instead of nurturing, undermine the emotional and mental health of those who experience them. They are characterized by manipulation, control, abuse, whether emotional or physical, creating a climate of tension and constant pain. Notice how these harmful patterns can repeat, imprisoning people in cycles of dependence and self-destruction, even if they are aware of the damage. The key to freedom lies in recognizing these patterns. Can you identify any of them in your own story? How about starting by reflecting on that? Psychoanalysis offers us a valuable tool for understanding the complexity of these relationships. It seeks to unravel the unconscious roots of these behaviors, investigating how past experiences, especially relationships with important figures in childhood, impact our romantic choices in adulthood. The repetition of toxic patterns can be a reflection of the internalization of dysfunctional relational models learned in childhood. Have you ever questioned the possible origins of your relational patterns? Don't feel alone on this journey of self-knowledge. Imagine, for example, a person who grew up in a chaotic family environment. This person may unconsciously seek out and reproduce similar dynamics in their romantic relationships. What strength you have to break with these cycles? Think of someone who, in childhood, learned to seek approval through submission to a father or authoritarian authority figure. In adulthood, this person may repeatedly engage in relationships in which they accept disrespectful treatment, seeking validation in obedience, and neglecting their own needs. Psychoanalysis helps identify these unconscious mechanisms that perpetuate the cycle of harmful relationships. It helps us analyze the defenses and motivations that drive us. Do you identify with any of these examples? Believe in your power to change. We will delve deeper into this topic in the next chapter, exploring the psychological mechanisms that sustain these destructive patterns. Reflect on how important this first step is for a fuller and healthier life. Toxic relationships often repeat painfully, even with the desire for change. Psychoanalysis helps us understand these patterns, revealing the strength of unconscious processes, defense mechanisms, and past experiences. Have you ever wondered why these dynamics repeat? Remember, you have the power to change. The repetition of destructive behaviors is not necessarily conscious self-sabotage, but rather the manifestation of deep internal forces. We can unconsciously seek partners who mirror significant parental figures, recreating, even if painfully, family scenarios. Have you noticed any similar patterns in your relationships? Believe me, you deserve a healthy and happy love. A common pattern is excessive dependence on one partner and excessive control on the other. These dynamics can have roots in childhood, where dependence or control were strategies for dealing with insecurity or lack of boundaries. The unconscious mechanism is the repetition of a family pattern, even if suffered. The person unconsciously seeks to confirm a belief about themselves or about the relationship, validating an internalized negative image. Do you recognize these patterns in your own life? Don't give up. Change is possible. Projection, a crucial psychoanalytic mechanism in toxic relationships, attributes unacceptable qualities or impulses of one's own to another person. For example, someone with repressed anger accuses their partner of aggressiveness, avoiding confronting their own feelings. This mechanism, apparently diverting responsibility, maintains the negative dynamic, as the true source of the conflict remains unconscious and unexplored. The relationship becomes a stage for projections and counter-projections, perpetuating the toxic cycle. Can you identify moments when projection manifests in your relationships? Remember, self-knowledge is the key to a better future. Denial is also fundamental in maintaining harmful relationships. Individuals minimize or ignore signs of abuse, justifying toxic behavior with excuses. This denial protects from the anguish that awareness of the problem would cause, preserving a positive self-image. Just as a gambler persists in a game of chance, denying the unfavorable reality, denial prevents a real assessment of the relationship and healthy decisions. Do you recognize yourself in any of these denial strategies? Believe in your potential to build healthy relationships. Understanding these unconscious mechanisms is the first step to breaking the cycle of toxic relationships. Psychoanalysis illuminates the formation of toxic relationships through transference and countertransference. Transference projects emotional patterns from past relationships, often with parental figures, onto new bonds. In toxic relationships, this reproduces dysfunctional family dynamics, even unconsciously. Have you ever wondered why you repeat harmful relational patterns? Are there unconscious patterns in your relationships? Remember, you have the power to change. Countertransference is the partner's unconscious response to projections. If someone attracts manipulative partners, their low self-esteem may lead them to tolerate manipulation. Thus, a vicious cycle arises where transference finds fertile ground in the other's countertransference. It's like a destructive chess game. Do you perceive your own contributions to the toxic dynamic? Can you identify countertransference patterns in your relationships? Break the cycle. You are stronger than you think. The choice of toxic partners is rarely random. The repetition of dysfunctional patterns, driven by transference, demonstrates the profound influence of early experiences. Someone who suffered emotional neglect in childhood may unconsciously seek partners who reproduce this dynamic. Have you ever questioned the roots of your relational patterns? What experiences from your childhood may be influencing your choice of partners? Believe in your capacity for healing and transformation. Understanding the interaction between transference and countertransference is crucial for unraveling the complexity of toxic relationships. The analysis of these unconscious forces reveals how the past influences the choice and maintenance of dysfunctional dynamics. Are you ready to investigate the roots of your relationships? Do you feel capable of breaking with these patterns? Remember, you deserve healthy and loving relationships. Fixation on psychosexual stages of childhood contributes to the attraction to toxic relationships. Individuals with oral fixations, for example, may exhibit extreme dependence, becoming vulnerable to manipulation. Have you ever wondered if any childhood fixation may be affecting your current relationships? How have your experiences in childhood shaped your perception of love and relationships? The journey to healing begins with self-awareness. Anal fixation, related to control and autonomy, can lead to self-destructive behaviors. The search for dominance or submission results in unbalanced power dynamics. Do you recognize yourself in any of these patterns? How do you deal with issues of control in your relationships? Understand your fixations and free yourself from destructive patterns. In toxic relationships, we observe regressive behaviors. In the face of stress, the individual reverts to childlike patterns, such as extreme dependence. What is your reaction to stress in relationships? Do you feel capable of dealing with your defense mechanisms in a healthy way? Seek help to understand and overcome your regressive patterns. Fixation does not determine the attraction to toxic relationships, but it creates a predisposition. The vulnerability lies in the unconscious repetition of past experiences, in the hope of an illusory resolution. Do you feel trapped in a cycle of toxic relationships? How can you break this cycle of repetition? You are capable of creating a different future for yourself. Toxic relationships involve individuals with specific personality structures. The narcissist, with grandiose and fragile self-esteem, manipulates the partner to obtain validation. Have you ever encountered a narcissist in a relationship? How do you identify and deal with this type of personality? Set your boundaries and protect your mental health. The borderline personality, marked by emotional instability, oscillates between idealization and devaluation of the partner. Extreme dependence and fear of abandonment generate impulsive behaviors. Do you identify with any of these traits? How can you work on your own emotional stability? You deserve balanced and stable relationships. Avoidant personalities also contribute to toxic relationships. The need for self-protection leads to emotional distance and avoidance of intimacy. Do you recognize yourself in this description? How can you break down your barriers and build closer relationships? Vulnerability is an act of courage and self-love. It is not about blaming, but about elucidating the mechanisms that sustain toxic patterns. Understanding the unconscious dynamic opens the way for therapeutic interventions. Are you ready to seek professional help to better understand your relational patterns? You deserve to live a healthy and happy relationship. Toxic relationships cause deep damage to self-esteem and identity, often leading to the creation of a false self. Psychoanalysis helps us understand this process. The unequal power dynamic present in these relationships stifles the victim's ability to recognize themselves as an autonomous individual with their own desires and needs. Have you ever felt like this? How can we recognize these signs of oppression in our lives? Remember, you deserve to be valued. Constant criticism, devaluation, and manipulation destroy self-confidence, creating a distorted image of oneself. The person internalizes the partner's negative judgments, questioning their own validity and competence. It is like a mirror that reflects a distorted image, hiding the true essence. Can you visualize how this distorted image affects your perception of yourself? What steps can you take to start breaking down this negative image? Believe in your potential. You are capable of much more. Emotional dependence intensifies this process. The victim focuses on the needs and opinions of the abusive partner, neglecting their own. The incessant search for external approval becomes the center of their life. This prevents the development of an authentic identity, as their definition of themselves depends on the approval of the other. Imagine an artist who, instead of expressing their own art, incessantly imitates others, fearing rejection. What impact does this search for external validation have on your own creativity? How can you rescue your authenticity and creative freedom? You are unique and valuable. This need to please, even if it costs your self-esteem, generates a false self. It is a defense, a mask, that protects from the suffering caused by devaluation. This false self presents an idealized or submissive version of oneself, seeking to meet the expectations of the toxic partner. This dissociation between the true and false self causes profound alienation and disconnection with one's own emotions and desires. How does this disconnection manifest in your life? What do you need to do to start reconnecting with your true self? Don't give up. The journey to self-discovery is worth it. Recovering self-esteem and identity after a toxic relationship requires therapy. Psychoanalytic psychotherapy, which explores defense mechanisms and reconstructs the personal narrative, is essential. Understanding how the false self was constructed and the influence of the partner on self-perception are crucial steps. Undoing the damage, rebuilding a more authentic image of oneself, and establishing healthy boundaries are the challenges to recovering the ability to love and be loved genuinely. How can you start this process of healing and recovery? What concrete steps will you take today to take care of yourself? You are strong and capable of overcoming this. Toxic relationships, marked by manipulation, abuse, and imbalance, have deep roots in the psyche. Psychoanalysis reveals the unconscious dynamics that perpetuate this cycle. How do past experiences, especially the relationship with caregivers, influence our current choices? This understanding is fundamental for transformation. The analysis confronts defense mechanisms that prevent healthy boundaries and identifies unconscious fantasies that attract us to dysfunctional relationships. Have you ever questioned the origins of your relational patterns? Believe in your power to change. Psychoanalytic therapy explores transference, the unconscious repetition of past patterns in the relationship with the therapist. By observing the interaction, we identify recurring themes, such as the search for excessive validation or control. For example, someone who engages with controlling partners may be repeating a childhood pattern of excessive parental dominance. What patterns do you repeat in your relationships? Can you identify the origin of these patterns? Don't give up. Healing is possible. The interpretation of dreams and slips of the tongue is crucial. These events reveal unconscious desires and conflicts that influence relational choices. A recurring dream about imprisonment may indicate the unconscious perception of being trapped in a toxic relationship. Slips of the tongue signal resistance to change. What messages do your dreams and slips of the tongue bring you? Are you ready to unravel these enigmas? The journey through self-discovery is rewarding. Developing self-awareness is vital. Psychoanalysis helps to recognize one's own role in toxic relationships, going beyond blaming the other. Low self-esteem and difficulty in establishing boundaries contribute to vulnerability to manipulation. Therapy supports the development of a more positive self-image and more adaptive defense mechanisms, allowing for more assertive choices. How do you feel about yourself? How can you strengthen your self-esteem? You deserve love and respect. Psychoanalysis offers a powerful lens for understanding the dynamics of toxic relationships. Repetitive patterns, inherited from early experiences, recreate dysfunctional scenarios in adulthood. The abuser/victim dynamic may reflect parental relationships marked by neglect or abuse. Unconsciously, we repeat these patterns seeking familiarity, even if painful. What are your childhood experiences that may be influencing your current relationships? You are capable of creating new narratives for your life. Psychoanalytic therapy helps to identify these patterns, exploring unconscious impulses and defenses. Through the analysis of transference, the patient gains clarity about how the past influences their choices. For example, someone who engages with emotionally distant partners may mirror a negligent parental figure. Understanding this dynamic allows you to create new relational strategies. What patterns do you recognize in your relationships? What can you learn from them? Have faith in the healing process. The therapeutic process aims to build new forms of interaction. Developing self-awareness, strengthening self-esteem, and learning to establish healthy boundaries are crucial steps to avoid repeating harmful patterns and building more balanced relationships. Therapy supports the development of a stronger and more autonomous self. How can you build healthier relationships? You are worthy of love and happiness. The journey requires effort, but psychoanalysis offers a valuable map. You are stronger than you imagine.